Welcome to the fog-shrouded realm of Dead by Daylight, where the line between life and death blurs, and the pursuit of survival is both relentless and thrilling. In How to Survive a Dead by Daylight Beginner's Handbook, we embark on a journey into the heart-pounding world of this asymmetric horror game. Whether you're a newcomer nervously stepping into the fog for the first time, or a fledgling survivor seeking to hone your skills, this guide is your essential companion. Join us as we navigate the ominous trials, unravel the mysteries of the entity, and equip you with the knowledge to outwit, outrun, and outlast the relentless killers. Are you ready to face the terror and emerge victorious? Or will you succumb to the darkness? Your survival starts here. Today, we'll be talking about flashlight saving. And instead of, like the other parts, me telling you perks that will help with flashlight saving, I'm going to give you a straight up build and a perk you could swap into that build. So it's going to be a little bit different to normal. And there will be some gameplay after using this build from streams and that sort of stuff, so they wouldn't be me filming it right this very moment. But to get into it, we're going to start with a utility flashlight. It could be any flashlight, but the utility flashlight is your strongest flashlight you'll get in the game. You have 12 seconds of use. It's increased brightness of the flashlight beam by 30%, increased blindness duration by 15%, and decreases the accuracy of the flashlight beam by 20%. With the add-ons for this flashlight, we are going the intense halogen, which increases the brightness of the flashlight beam by 40% and increases the blindness duration by 20%, which I do believe stacks, so the brightness of it goes up to like 70%, and the blindness duration goes up to 35%. And I've just stuck a random battery in this build. You probably could use any battery, because all the battery does is just increase the amount of time it lasts for. But I've gone for a low-end or common flashlight battery just because you'll find them loads in the blood web. Now, back to perks. I want to talk about the first perk I've got in this build, and that is Champion of Light, which is an Alan Wake perk, and it's also the reason why I've waited till now to cover flashlight saves, because when I started doing the series, he was in the PTB, and I honestly, during the PTB, thought this perk was awful. But playing with it in this build, I have realized it is an actually strong perk. I haven't even managed to get it all the way to very rare yet, but at just rare Champion of Light, while you're holding a flashlight, this perk activates, and when you are shining a flashlight, you have 50% haste, which basically means when you're holding the flashlight out, you can move out of cover to flashlight save someone rather quickly. And another part of this perk I do like, this is probably the strongest part of this perk, is when you successfully blind the killer, they also gain 20% hindered for 6 seconds. But this effect cannot stack with itself. So if 2 people go up, you don't get 40% hindered. And then this perk goes on cooldown for 70 seconds. So you can hinder the killer and get haste from it every 70 seconds. Which pretty much means when you flashlight save someone, the killer is going to first be blinded, they're going to be stunned because of having to drop the person, if you manage it. They're also going to move slower, so they're not going to have a chance to truly catch up with you after, meaning you can basically be in and out of that ASAP. We then have Background Player, which basically gives you a sprint boost as the killer starts picking up the survivor. Yes, so you get a 10-second boost, sprint boost basically, of 200% of your normal run. Oh wait, no, let me rephrase that. So when the killer picks someone up, background player is increased, or it's not increased, it's activated for 10 seconds, and for those 10 seconds you will get a 5-second running movement speed increase of 200%, basically meaning while the survivor picks someone up, oh not the survivor, the killer picks the survivor up, you can get into a position perfectly to flashlight save, and pairing that with the 50% haste you get from this, you can perfectly move yourself into the right spot just at the right time to flashlight save the survivor and also get out of there ASAP, because if you're quick enough, you still have that 5-second sprint boost to get out of there as well. We then have Built to Last, which basically means when your item, so in this case your flashlight, is fully used, you can go into a locker, wait in there for 12 seconds, and come out. The first time you'll get 99% of the charge refilled, and for each time you do it, it goes down by 33%. So the first time you have 99%, then 66, then 33, and then after that it won't work. So you have basically 3 times to go back into a locker to use Built to Last, but more than likely you won't need to go back into a locker 3 times. And a perk that really helps this build is Empathy, basically meaning if any of your teammates are in the dying or injured states, they are revealed to you as long as they are within 128 meters, which on smaller maps, you pretty much know where they are at all times, which basically helps you out because you can get into just the right position without the killer knowing you're there, and then as soon as they've downed the survivor and go to pick them up, you can then use background player to run round the killer and also then use Champion of Light, flashlight blind them, and also move around into the right position. With this build, you could also take out Champion of Light and put in Vigil, which basically any survivor and yourself, which are in heals you and any survivor within 8 meters. They will recover from blindness, broken, exhaust, expose, hemorrhage, hindered, and oblivious. Effects 30% faster, and the effects of this do persist for 15 seconds after being out of range. I do want to also talk about some killer perks that do kind of destroy this build and I wouldn't say destroy, but can also make it very difficult for survivors to use this build and flashlight saves. The first perk I want to talk about when it comes to killers kind of stopping flashlight saves, I want to talk about the trickster perk Starstruck, which when the killer picks up a survivor, any survivors within, it doesn't tell you how close, but any survivors within a certain distance, who are within the terror radius of the killer, they become exposed. And then that perk then goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. The way this works is basically, even though the killer has picked someone up, you are still exposed. So if you're close enough for them to hit you, you are instantly downed, no matter what health state you are in. Basically meaning if you're close enough for the killer to down you while you're trying to flashlight save, once they've picked the survivor up, it's pretty much an instant down for you. The next perk I do want to talk about, which does completely destroy flashlight saving, is Lightborn, which makes the killer completely immune to flashlights, firecrackers, flashbangs, and blast mine. And any survivor that attempts to blind them has their aura revealed for 10 seconds. Basically meaning if you try to flashlight save someone and they're basically right next to a hook, they can hook that survivor and know where you are for a short period of time after. It's not a fun perk, and it's a very annoying perk to see. And I think a lot more killers are going to be running it now because of Alan Wake's perk, Champion of Light. Because being able to stop that flashlight save is such a good thing when playing from killer. But it's also annoying when you're playing a survivor. And there is also a Chucky perk. It's called Hex 2 can play. Yeah, 2 can play. Which basically means as long as the Hex totem is up, anytime you stun or blind the killer, the survivor will also be stunned or blinded for 1.5 seconds. So no matter what, even if you have like a high time of blind for the killer, this perk will blind you for 1.5 seconds. It doesn't matter how long you blind the killer for, no matter what, you will be blinded for 1.5 seconds when you blind the killer. Basically meaning you're not going to know where you're already going for that 1.5 seconds. And if the killer is right in front of you as well, he has a chance to lunge forward to basically hit you. So if he was to pair that with Starstruck, that would be a little bit broken. Now we're going to jump into some gameplay. You know, I've mentioned some perks that the build we're going to be using, and also perks that combat it from the killer point of view. I think the next part I do will be focused on looping, and then we're going to be jumping into checking out the killers. Well, I think instead of doing one big killer video where I go through all the killers and all that stuff, I'm going to break it down. So the basics for killer are a bit more, not the proper basics, but what the killer really has to do. And then I'm going to break it down into each killer, meaning at some point we will hopefully catch up to the most recent killer. Hey! Perfect.